A very warm welcome to our viewers today. I'm so glad that you have taken time and you're here. Today, we're going to look into the impact that media has on college life. Our guest today is a very special person. We have Mr. Sumit here, who is a lecturer at the Jyotinivas College. Any students, Jyotinivas sites, listening to this section, give us some cheer. I'm so glad you must have seen him in action at your college. We're very happy to have him here because he's someone who's passionate about grooming the next gen of students who are the thinkers and doers of the future. He's also very passionate about media because he's someone who believes that media can shape the way people perceive and experience life. So let's get started. Thank you for joining us, Sumit.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor. So, thank you so much for accommodating some sort of conversation that is actually going to be very helpful for a lot of people. So, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. So, today I would want to start with some of the questions that, parents especially, or the decision makers of various systems that we have, they've been very concerned about. For a long period of time, we have media playing sometimes a hero's role and then sometimes the role of a villain. When you look at social media, it's been on a bad rap for a very long time because you have people talking about comparison. We have studies that says that, mood swings are a big result of people spending time in unproportional manner on social media, and all this having very strong implications on their mental health. So someone with a media background, how would you look at this entire thing that's happening today?
What I think is actually social media can't necessarily be a hero or a villain. That dichotomy is a problem in my mind. Yes, it can do bad things. Yes, it can do good things. But to just frame it in that particular manner as this or the other can be a bit detrimental to how we perceive media in general.
Right.
And instead, coming closer to a generation that is exposed to certain technologies or social media on a daily basis, we will further alienate ourselves and them.
Yes.
So that's what I feel like that particular term could come with a bit of nuance.
Yes, while I understand where you're coming from, and also looking at it as something that, when there's something new that is introduced in our civilization, in our culture, then our first response towards that uncertainty is always fear.
Yeah.
So it's important that for us to thrive, that we go beyond this fear. However, isn't the question also about today's social media is like how much of social media, right? And where it is getting positioned in our lives. Today, social
Absolutely.
media, can be prioritized, in tandem with dinner dates. When you're having your appraisal discussions happening and
Oh,
people
yeah.
are on their phone.
Oh, yeah.
When major discussions are happening, people are on the phone. So, it's a very natural response for people who like to believe that, our society is really growing, for them to feel like, the quality of emotions and what they call as, reality.
Yeah.
Today's youngsters are moving away from reality, and, 70% of that credit is thrown
Yeah.
upon social media because today, in the name of connectivity, we have lost our actual connection. And I think that is where, when it is coming into our personal lives, no, Sumit, I think that is where people, it's not just fear now, no, it's anger, it's discomfort, it's creating complexes in relationships.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
My husband is on phone, and then it kind of triggers me. My birthday, none of you wished. Lot of these nuances of these little complexes that it's creating, which a generation before might feel it's completely
Oh, yeah.
unnecessary. So how would you look at it?
I would look at it from
Because you're a
that.
teacher
Yeah.
and also media. I mean, that is, that puts you in a spot actually.
I'm not at all here to defend media in any way. In fact, the more critical we look at it, the better for all of us.
Yes.
From a mental health point of view, from an overall sociological point of view. So I completely understand.
Absolutely.
I do completely agree with where you're coming from. It's a very I guess that's where I'm trying to make a point here is that calling it a hero or a villain is doing the complexities of social media and technology a disservice, and how it has, as you pointed, positioned itself in our lives a disservice. I completely get where you're coming from, because the moment you were talking about how people have been positioned with social media in a certain way that it is inseparable. I will not be able to do anything without it. Oh, nobody texted me and all of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is completely realistic. I remember reading a small article and watched a video on Twitter that said of a, I guess, a 16-year-old in some northern part of the country was not allowed to play a video game. He was convulsing to a certain point. He showed almost very immediate signs of withdrawal, and it almost felt like, oh, this feels like a very heavy addiction to some sort of opioid. But no, it turns out it's a video game and the internet and connectivity. So I completely understand how it has changed the overall brain chemistry of people, and how they behave either by themselves or with others. It is a very problematic thing, yes. But I have also seen the accessibility of social media has really opened avenues for a lot of families, for a lot of people who were not able to make a business out of anything. For example, in Bangladesh, there is a um, I forget her name, and my apologies, which is a stain as a teacher, I suppose, forgetting. But it's the idea is that she was a former supermodel who came from Bangladesh, from a very rural area, and then later she realized that I can use the traditional style of weaving gamcha and make that into very high couture fashion. And at that point in the early 90s, it was doing really well and still is, but it kind of found new ground of niche aesthetic fashion because of the internet. And because of that, and again, I might be a little bit too how do I say this? A bit too romantic with it. But because of the internet opening up that particular avenue, a lot of workers were able to get noticed. Not only that, UNESCO started helping them. And it was, in a way, productive for them. Right. And yes, it is good or bad, but it can also be a thing where you need to understand it is a blank canvas, social media, so to speak. It depends on how much we value it, where do we go from it, and then how do we attach or detach ourselves through it. The biggest vice of social media is that once you attach yourself, detaching
Very
becomes
difficult.
an eternal process.
Yes.
Even when you're dying, somebody might do a live stream on Instagram and get views, which sounds morbid, but in a topsy turvy world, it might be possible. So, to answer your question in a very straightforward way will be difficult, and because the question itself is not straightforward, it comes with a lot of layers. So yeah, it still is very difficult to call it like, oh, it's a hero and a villain. It is everything.
So, no matter what we call it, whether we call it a hero or a villain,
Yeah.
the basic message is social media is here to stay, and it's up to us how we're going to integrate it and prioritize it in our own lives.
Yeah, thank you for making it concise. Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
It is that.
yeah.
It is not going to leave anytime soon,
Not at all.
and
We're proud when our, where I find the hypocrisy creeping in is parents are very proud to announce to the world that, you know what, my daughter got a job in Facebook, or my son is working here. And then,
Google and
oh,
whatnot.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then, when it comes to the society and the good and the bad, and how the new generation is behaving in a party, or, they're just declining
yeah.
everybody around them, and, they're so entitled and all that. And we're so unhappy with them. so, so I think it's exactly what you said. I think the social media or the internet at large, it'll become anything that you want it to be in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. It is that malleable,
Yeah. It
and
sounds so much like the definition of the human mind, whether you
absolutely.
can make it your slave or your master, and all these poetic things that
Yeah,
comes.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think things which have got multiple layers, I think that's where poetry and all that comes to save our day.
I think Carl Jung would have a field day with this if those parallels are being drawn.